Amid new accusers, including a woman who says she was just a teenager when he called her at her high school. The veteran detective shot in the head and killed. There is an urgent manhunt at this hour. Your money, your taxes. House Republicans passed their plan. But tonight, the huge stakes for President Trump. Senate Republicans now can only afford to lose 2 votes. Where is the math right now? The powerful storm sweeping across the country. Holiday travel will be affected this weekend. The house explosion just as police arrive. And who pays $450 million for The Last Da Vinci? It went for $10,000 about a decade ago. Not a bad return.
This is ABC World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening, and it's great to have you with us here on a Thursday night. And amid this national conversation about sexual harassment, tonight the new headline involving a sitting senator. An explosive new charge against Democrat Al Franken, accused by a woman of forcibly kissing her during a USO tour before he was senator, and taking this photo while she slept on the plane back home from Afghanistan. Tonight, Senator Franken's response, and ABC's Mary Bruce leads us off.
Tonight on Capitol Hill, no sign of Al Franken. The senator disappeared after that photo emerged, and the sleeping woman he's standing over spoke out.
Gentlemen, coming up, Leanne Tweeden.
Leanne Tweeden breaking her story on KABC Radio this morning. The California radio host says she and Franken were in Kuwait on a USO tour in 2006, performing in a skit together. Backstage alone, he asked to practice a kissing scene he wrote.
And I'm like, Al, this isn't SNL. We're not really going to kiss, so we don't really have to practice. And he just kept persisting. And
she says Franken came at her.
And he just mashed his lips against my face, and he stuck his tongue in my mouth so fast. And all I can remember is that his lips were really wet, and it was slimy. And I remember I pushed him off with my hands. And I just remember I almost punched him.
But minutes later, they were in front of the troops, performing the sketch they would do many times. When the trip was over, exhausted, Tweeden fell asleep on the plane. And that's when the photo was taken.
It was a photo of Al doing his, this on my breast, like looking at the camera, just kind of smirking and smiling, like, hey, look at me. I mean, nothing like that is ever funny. I mean, is it funny if he does that to your sister or your daughter or your wife?
Today, he apologized, writing the first and most important thing is I'm sorry. Of that picture, the senator says there's no excuse. I look at it now and I feel disgusted with myself. It isn't funny. It's completely inappropriate. It's obvious how Leanne would feel violated. But as for the alleged unwanted kiss, Franken writes, while I don't remember the rehearsal for the skit as Leanne does, I understand why we need to listen to and believe women's experiences. Now Congress is going to take a good, hard look at him.
This kind of conduct should not be tolerated by anyone and any public official.
Should he resign?
That's something I think we're going to have to wait to see how it plays out on the ethics investigation.
Should he resign?
It needs to be looked into.
As for Tweeden,
people make mistakes. I mean, I'm not calling for him to step down. That's not my place to say that.
Mary Bruce with us live on the Hill tonight. And Mary, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is now calling for the Ethics Committee to investigate Al Franken.
David McConnell says harassment and assault are completely unacceptable and is now asking the Ethics Committee to launch a formal investigation. And tonight, Democrats agree. And Franken says he will, quote, gladly cooperate. David.
Mary Bruce leading us off. Mary, thank you. The other major allegations involve a man who wants to become senator, Roy Moore. New accusers, and tonight the woman who says he called her when she was a teen at her high school. She allegedly got pulled out of trig class. Late today, Roy Moore defiant, saying, quote, I'll quit standing when they lay me in that box and put me in the ground. ABC's Tom Yamas asking, does Moore deny dating teenage girls?
For the first time since his campaign became engulfed in scandal, Roy Moore faced reporters at an open news conference.
I'll quit standing when they lay me in that box and put me in the ground.
He denied all the allegations against him.
They're not only untrue, but they have no evidence to support them.
Then he opened the floor to questions.
We're going to talk about issues today. If anyone has a question about issue. Next question, sir.
Does Judge Roy Moore categorically deny he dated teenage high school girls when he was in his 30s?
You read his letter, and it addresses that very clearly.
But can we hear him say it?
Next.
Can we hear him say it?
My question ending the news conference. Moore and his wife Kayla walking out so we followed them.
Are your accusers lying, Judge?
Moore staying silent, dodging questions by escaping into a kitchen. His allies outraged, lashing out at reporters.
You are the fake, lying news from the swamp.
Moore has tried to push past the allegations, but new ones pop up nearly every day. The latest from the Washington Post. Gina Richardson says she was a teenage girl, around 18 years old, when Roy Moore approached her at the local mall where she was working. She says he introduced himself, asked where she went to school, and asked for her phone number. No, she says she told him, my dad is so strict. A few days later, Richardson says she was sitting in trigonometry class when she was called to the principal's office. She tells the Post she was startled and thought maybe her dad was calling. Instead, she says, the man on the phone was Roy Moore. He said, what are you doing? I said, I'm in trig class. Richardson says Moore asked her out, but she told him she couldn't talk. A few days later, at the mall, she says he asked her out again, and that night they went to the movies. After, Richardson says Moore offered her a ride, and in his car gave her what she calls a forceful kiss. I'd never been kissed like that, she says, and the minute that happened, I got scared. And so I said, I've got to go because my curfew is now. Richardson says that's the last time she spoke to Roy Moore. And tonight, the Alabama Republican Party sticking with him. And then from the White House, our Cecilia Vega in the briefing room.
Does the president believe Roy Moore's accusers, and does he think Roy Moore should drop out of this race?
Look, the president believes that these allegations are very troubling and should be taken seriously, and he thinks that the people of Alabama should make the decision on who their next senator should be.
All right, Tom, with us live tonight in Birmingham. You heard what the White House told Cecilia today. The president believes this is up to the voters there in Alabama. He's not calling on Roy Moore to drop out.
That's right, David. And actually, there's a new poll that just came out moments ago, and it shows the Democrat in this race, Doug Jones, up by 8 points. Before the scandal broke, Roy Moore was up by double digits. This is only one poll. It was conducted this week, but clearly it shows a shift in dynamics. David?
Tom Llamas with us again tonight. Tom, thank you. We turn next here to your money, your taxes, and tonight President Trump going to Capitol Hill. He desperately wants a legislative victory by year's end. House Republicans today passing their tax plan, but now the Senate. The president can only afford to lose 2 Republicans there, and who wins, who loses in both proposals? Here's ABC senior White House correspondent Cecilia Vega tonight.
President Trump brought his art of the deal to Capitol Hill today, making a pitch for a win he so desperately needs.
Tax is going really well. Thank you very much.
At the end of his closed-door meeting with House Republicans, he told them, I love you, now go vote. And they did, giving him that small victory on a bill that would add $1.4 trillion to the deficit over 10 years while decreasing the number of tax brackets and deductions. While it could save more than $300 billion over the next decade, it could also leave 13 million more people uninsured by repealing an Obamacare mandate requiring all Americans to have insurance. The first Republican senator to say he's a no, Wisconsin's Ron Johnson. Overnight, President Trump called trying to ease his concerns. Johnson said he's still a no.
So I'm just looking for a fair shake for all businesses. Let's not upset that apple cart and harm our economy.
And now a new report by Congress's nonpartisan tax committee raises serious questions about White House claims its tax plan benefits the middle class. It says over the next decade, Americans who earn 6 figures will pay lower taxes, but those earning $75,000 or less will actually see a tax hike. Opponents like Oregon Senator Ron Wyden call it unfair.
I don't know how anybody can go home now to the folks they represent and explain why it's a good idea to hike taxes on parents who barely stay afloat to pay for a massive corporate handout. What is happening now is just shameful.
All right, Cecilia Vega live at the White House tonight. And Cecilia, as we said there, Republicans can only afford to lose 2 votes in the Senate. One senator, as you reported there, already a no. But you're hearing tonight the president still believes this is a done deal.
David, sources tell us that behind closed doors on Capitol Hill today, the president told Republicans the Senate will pass this bill. He says that he'll be able to convert any Republican no's, like Wisconsin's Ron Johnson. He is already talking about what comes next, welfare reform. But as we've been saying, this is far from a done deal. He cannot afford to lose any more votes, David.
Cecilia Vega with us again tonight. Cecilia, thank you. There is a developing headline tonight from South Dakota where the controversial Keystone Pipeline was shut down today after an oil leak. More than 200,000 gallons of oil escaping in a rural part of the state as TransCanada activated its emergency response plan. Officials say the cleanup could take some time. Next tonight to the Russia investigation and Jared Kushner, the Senate Judiciary Committee calling on the president's son-in-law to provide key emails that they say he did not turn over. Emails about WikiLeaks and about a reported overture from Russia to then candidate Donald Trump. Here's ABC Senior Justice correspondent Pierre Thomas.
Tonight, we're learning that Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, has not turned over all of his emails to Senate investigators looking into Russian meddling. That revelation less than a week after we learned that the president's son, Donald Trump Jr., exchanged private messages with WikiLeaks at the height of the campaign. Exchanges during a period where WikiLeaks was releasing damaging information on Hillary Clinton.
WikiLeaks, I love WikiLeaks.
Today, the Senate Judiciary Committee demanding answers about Kushner's emails, contacting his attorney saying they want missing emails Kushner forwarded about a Russian backdoor overture and dinner invite, and about WikiLeaks. If, as you suggest, Mr. Kushner was unaware of, for example, any attempts at Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election, the corresponding burden of searching would be small. David, tonight Kushner's attorney says he's been cooperating with congressional investigators and will continue to. And members of Congress are demanding that he do so. David?
Pierre Thomas tonight. Pierre, thank you. Next, a mistrial for Senator Bob Menendez in his corruption case after jurors said they were deadlocked. The New Jersey Democrat accused of using his political influence to help a Florida eye doctor in exchange for gifts and campaign contributions. Menendez denied all charges, saying the two men were close, quote, like brothers. No word yet on whether prosecutors will try again. Next, an ABC News investigation tonight with our stations across the country into a giant real estate rental company, Starwood Waypoint, co-founded by a billionaire friend of President Trump. Tens of thousands of families live in those properties paying rent. But the company is now dogged by complaints of shoddy maintenance and an aggressive eviction policy. ABC's chief investigative correspondent Brian Ross tonight.
In Dallas, Texas, disaster in the living room. After Carlos and Ebony January say the landlord did a shoddy job of repairing an upstairs leak.
Which is like to be alive.
In Broward County, Florida, the parents of Brielle Nicholson say in a lawsuit their daughter's asthma was caused by the very same landlord who failed to remove toxic mold from their rental home.
Every morning and every night, she has to take a breathing treatment.
The landlord was, in effect, one of President Trump's best billionaire friends, Tom Barrick, who, until he sold his interest, helped run what has now grown into a giant corporation operating under the name Starwood Waypoint that controls tens of thousands of single-family rental homes across the country.
You have the ultimate out-of-state, far-removed, absentee landlord.
In some neighborhoods, as our station in Atlanta documented, a huge presence. The company claims it has a 99.8% satisfaction rate from its tenants.
We're bringing professionalism, dedicated resources, and a lot of energy and desire to service our residents at a high level.
But the Better Business Bureau gives the company a grade of D+, and reporters at ABC TV stations across the country heard lots of complaints.
We just feel like we've been victimized and taken advantage of.
Tenants also told us the company is quick to threaten eviction, even if a tenant is only a few days late with the rent. When it happens, they can end up in court and have to pay additional fees and the company's lawyers to stave off eviction. Is that true? They have to pay those fees?
Yes, it's true.
That's fair.
That's part of the process that we have.
It's part of your business.
It's part of the business.
Brian Ross with us tonight, and we heard the executive from Waypoint say there that the eviction notices and the fees are just part of their business, Brian?
That's right, David. All landlords deal with eviction issues, but a study done for the Federal Reserve Bank in Atlanta found Tom Barrick's company had filed eviction notices against a full 1/3 of its tenants in the area. The company would not say how often they threaten eviction nationwide, David.
All right, Brian Ross on our stations across the country. Thanks. There is still much more ahead on World News Tonight this Thursday. Your Money Tonight Black Friday deals up tonight, and one item you can save hundreds on right now, and how to shop at those big box discount stores without a long-term membership. Also, the urgent manhunt at this hour, the veteran police detective, father of 5 shot and killed, where they're searching. The deadly house explosion just as police arrived, the new video out tonight. And of course, we're tracking that powerful weather system moving across the country. Holiday travel will be affected this weekend. Rob Marciano standing by.
If you're not a member, keep in mind there's no official trial, but if you're not satisfied, Costco will refund the annual fee. And on Amazon, tomorrow through Black Friday, you'll see discounts popping up on electronics, plus its own devices.
You've earned Kohl's Cash.
Starting Monday at Kohl's, earn $15 for every $50 you spend. And already available at Best Buy, this 50-inch 4K TV, now $300 off.
How do you differentiate the deals from the duds?
Insist on at least a 30% discount from the original price.
All right, Rebecca's with us. She's been digging into the deal, so here's the question. Are they as good or are better ones coming next week?
Historically, David, the deals get better on the real Black Friday. TVs are going to be huge this year, and I've spoken to a number of retailers who say it pays to go to the stores. The deals will be even better there than online.
Because they're trying to get you into the store.
Exactly.
Rebecca, thanks. When we come back here tonight, the powerful storm is moving across the country tonight. The impact on holiday travel, Rob with the new track, and the veteran police detective shot and killed the manhunt right now. Detective Sean Suter, an 18-year veteran, husband and father of 5, was shot in the head and killed. He was investigating a homicide, saw a man acting suspiciously, and that man then opened fire. The deadly house explosion in Indio, California, a gas explosion destroying the home weeks ago. The video just out tonight as part of the investigation. The homeowner was killed, an officer suffering second-degree burns on his arm. We turn now to that powerful storm system moving across the country. Let's get right to Rob tracking it for us. Hey, Rob.
Hey, David, this system big enough to have big impacts across really the entire country. Already out west, we had the rain and wind. Now tonight we'll have the snow at the higher elevations, 1 to 3 feet of it. The front gets through Denver, eventually through St. Louis and Chicago. Going to bring in some winds there. Strong winds developing ahead of this front with that rain. Then Sunday morning, especially the I-94-5 corridor will get it with cold air coming in behind this system. Dicey travel conditions, especially the latter half of the weekend, David.
All right, you got it, Rob. Thanks for being here. When we come back tonight, listen to this.
300. I thought so.
The gasps in the room. Who bought the Da Vinci for more than $450 million? When we come back.
Responders. The truck attack in New York. The only anchor with the NYPD at the scene. The only anchor at the fires in California. With survivors in Las Vegas. World News Tonight is America's most watched newscast, and we thank you.
Finally tonight here, forget the Da Vinci Code. The new mystery tonight. Who paid $450 million for this? Tonight, someone somewhere is the new owner of this, a painting by Leonardo da Vinci. Fewer than 20 of his paintings are known to exist, and this was the last one in private hands, auctioned off at Christie's here in New York overnight.
We move to the Leonardo da Vinci, the Salvator Mundi.
The Salvator Mundi, Latin for Savior of the World, right hand raised in a blessing, 26 inches tall, owned at one time by King Charles I of England. It was thought the painting was lost or destroyed, resurfacing in 1900, a photograph taken around that time. 10 years ago, the painting sold for $10,000, a restoration. And last night, bidding started at a mere $75 million.
200 million is bid. At 200 million. At 200 million. 200 million, please. 200 million is bid.
Didn't stop there.
Well, you could be 290, Alex. 300. I thought so. 300 million.
But wait. And finally, at $350 million, anyone else?
At 350 million and looking for another bid, please. 400 million. 400 million is the bid. Leonardo Salvator Mundi selling here at Christie's. $400 million is the bid, and the piece is sold.